YouTube, oh my goodness, what a time to be an NBA fan. With the finals coming to a close just a few days ago at the time of recording this video, we already have some massive news in regards to the 2024 NBA offseason, including 2 Eastern Conference teams making some big things happen here. In this video, I want to explain why both of these moves are good ones for each team respectively, and one of the teams might be a hot take, so make sure you guys stick around. The news that made me fire on my camera today and record this video is Pacers giving a max extension, 4 years, $189 million to Pascal Siakam. Awesome move from the Pacers. Needed to be done, no question about it. I was pretty certain, I would say, that, the Pacers would extend Pascal and he would want to stay in Indiana after having such a good playoff run with them, really finding a new home and role in Indiana. So, big congratulations to the Pacers. And if you guys are Pacers fans, let me know down in the comments how you're feeling about this move. I think it's a great one for the Pacers. The other move that we're going to discuss today is the Detroit Pistons firing head coach Monty Williams, with many years still left on his contract, and apparently they will still owe him $65 million. Now, this is another move that I think a lot of people in the media are going to say, oh, this is another example of the Pistons' incompetence from, the top down, and Monty Williams signs a $78 million contract to come to Detroit to coach this Pistons team, and they have one of the worst seasons of all time. They fire him after year 1 and still owe him $65 million. The media is going to love this, right? And they're going to say this is a terrible time to do this, right? People are saying, oh, they have a big important draft coming up. They have a big important, franchise altering offseason coming up. This is not a good time for the franchise to be searching for a head coach with all this stuff going on and their future in question. I actually think this is a great move for the Pistons, and I think we'll start with the Monty Williams firing and work our way into the Pascal Siakam signing. Pistons fans, before I start, let me know down in the comment section what you're feeling about this. I know Monty Williams was not liked by the Pistons fan base. The Pistons had a disaster season, right? Let's just call it what it is. And Monty Williams, getting that big contract, them having some expectations going into the season and completely failing at every single one of them. Monty Williams obviously a big part of that, but people, like I said, are going to say, oh, they're going to look at the contract, still owe him $65 million for the remaining years on his contract, and firing him now is a bad call. I'm going to explain why I totally disagree. Let's get into the Monty Williams firing, right? So why I think this is going to be taken the wrong way and received poorly by the NBA media and just everybody, right? This is going to be an example that they're going to say, oh, Pistons, they don't know what they're doing, right? Totally disagree. I think this is a great move for the Pistons, and here's why. Let's just start with the contract, right? That has no bearing on this decision, in my opinion. I don't think that should be deciding whether or not you move forward with a coach. In fact, I think it's actually a good sign from the Pistons ownership and front office that they're willing to eat this contract if it means, getting the right guy for the job at head coach long term, right? That is a fantastic sign, in my opinion. A lot of teams that aren't willing to compete, they would just say, oh, we made a mistake with this contract, we're going to let it play out. Even though we don't believe in Monty Williams, we can't fire him now. We'll look terrible. We'll lose our jobs. This is a bad look for the organization if we fire him right after we sign him for all that money. The Pistons say, you know what? I don't care about the money. You can have it. Whatever works for our team in the long run, whatever. We got to get the right guy in here now, no matter what it takes. If it takes $65 million and bad press, we'll do it. I think that's a great sign from the ownership saying, look, we made a mistake, but we're willing to pay all this money to fix it, right? And like I said, I can think of a lot of teams that might not be willing to do so, especially in regards to maybe losing their jobs in the front office. So I think that's a great sign if you're a Pistons fan, right? This is going to get a ton of bad press. It's going to be a bad look for the Pistons, but if you truly don't believe in Monty Williams long term, why, keep him around for X amount of more years if, this is such a pivotal point in your franchise, right? The Pistons have a big draft coming up in which they will have the 5th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. And you might say, well, the coach has a lot to do with who they might pick, and, it has to fit the new coach's system. They might not even have a head coach in mind that they want to hire. Why would you do this now of all times, right? And you could maybe say, okay, maybe they should have done it right after the season ended if they're going to do it at all, but maybe they just didn't know, everything involved with Monty Williams. They weren't sure on, making such a big decision. I think you do it before you have all these, free agency, draft, trades, all that stuff in the offseason. Why would you keep a guy in charge that you already don't believe in to make all, help make all those decisions or influence them, right? I think this is the perfect time, if any, to make a decision like this. Fire Monty Williams, get the guy in there that you believe in so that, maybe they could assist and grow this thing from the ground up like you didn't believe in Monty Williams to do. Now, as far as the $65 million, I already mentioned, that is pretty irrelevant in this case. I think if you don't believe in a coach, it doesn't matter what his contract looks like, especially with such a young and, rebuilding team long term. You have to get a guy in there that you can trust, right? And that you believe in long term. You do not keep a guy in this organization that you don't believe to grow this team to where you want it to be. And you might say, the general manager and the front office has a lot more on their their plate now because, not only do they have to make this 5th overall pick and all these, draft decisions and trades and free agency, stuff like that, but they also have to look for the right head coach. That is true, right? That is, more responsibility on the front office than they originally had. But again, I go back to, if you truly don't believe in Monty Williams to be that guy that you thought he could be, keeping him around is only a detriment to your team, right? It's only going to make things worse because now a guy you don't believe in is making these decisions and helping this, guide this process that you don't believe he's the right guy for. So, I think having influence on stuff like that could be a detriment. And I think, firing him now sooner rather than later is the best move for everybody. Yeah, it has to be a collaborative process, man. A rebuild like this takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of good hands guiding this thing along, right? And Pistons, this is going to get spun out of control by the media. I believe they're already saying how bad timing it is and how bad the front office is for hiring him in the first place. Listen, that's over, right? That's in the past. You can't look at things like that anymore in the NBA. You got to move forward. You got to do what's best for right now. People are going to clown on the Pistons. They're going to clown on the organization. Pistons fans might as well, but I think Pistons fans hated Monty Williams, so they might be happy. But either way you slice it, I mean, this is a good thing for the Pistons. Like, if depending on who they hire, right? Like, they have to hire someone better, but assuming they do get the guy that they believe in, this is a great move for the Pistons. Getting this thing, straightened out and correct right now is going to be such a great move long term for the Pistons. And I think they clearly have thought about doing this for a while, but maybe they just weren't, confident about the timing or whatever it was. But listen, this is a good move for the Pistons. I think people are going to take this in a different direction than it should be. Again, I really, call on Pistons fans here. Let me know down in the comment section what you really think of this situation. I think it's a great move for you guys. And I know the Pistons fans were really upset with Monty Williams. He didn't seem to be a great coach in Detroit, especially after the contract, looks really bad. But assuming you get a guy that you can trust in that head coach position, I think, this was going to happen regardless of, how many games they win next season. If you don't believe in Monty Williams, this is going to happen regardless. Doesn't matter how much is left on his contract. Doesn't matter. This is a W for Detroit. Hopefully I could change some of you guys' minds that disagree. But if you have a legitimate reason why this is a bad time to do this or why you shouldn't have done this at all, let me know down in the comments. I just think, how it looks isn't always what's so important. What actually is important is how the team functions with Monty Williams and like how it is, right? So how it looks isn't as important as how it is. We're not in that organization. We don't know what everything going on. So how it is, I believe, is that they don't believe in Monty Williams. How it looks is you paid this guy all this money to come in and fix the whole thing and he couldn't, right? Or maybe he could and you haven't given him enough time and now you fire him with, still owing him $65 million. Those are optics, right? How it looks is not important. So maybe he was, bad with the young guys. Maybe he wasn't a good leader. Who knows, right? I'm not trying to slander Monty Williams or anything like that. I don't know. Again, I wasn't in the locker room. I don't know what's going on there, but I do think as long as you find a more competent head coach that fits your long-term plan a little bit better, who has, similar ideas, the way you want to build this thing, I think it's a great move for Detroit. I think it's a really easy W for them, despite what the media is going to say about that contract and all that money they still owe Monty Williams. As far as Pascal Siakam, man, this is such a W for the Indiana Pacers. I think this was the big question mark on the docket for the Pacers offseason after making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2024, outdueling the Knicks and really showing promise as an up-and-coming team in the Eastern Conference. You trade for Pascal Siakam midway through the season. You give up a lot to get him, and all of a sudden he's a free agent, and you say, if he doesn't stick around, then that's a really bad look for the Pacers. That's a really bad trade that they just made because, he's expiring. He could sign somewhere else, and all of a sudden he gave up all those assets for a one-year rental superstar, right? This is a really big, message to the league from the Pacers. They're saying, yeah, we made this move. We made the conference finals. Pascal Siakam was incredible for us in the playoffs. Had a great playoff run, by the way. He played so well for that team. Was really such a big part of that. And guess what? We gave him the max extension probably as soon as we could have, right? Like this, he was signed to an extension before it seems anyone else in this offseason. So him being the first max contract on the offseason, it looks really good for the Pacers. I think it's a big W. You bring him back. He's clearly one of the most underrated players in the league. One of the best power forwards in the entire NBA, has been for a long time. Really fit in with that team nicely. Rick Carlisle and the gang seem to have a lot of, future plans for this team, and they really want to, commit to being that contender. And I think, maxing out Pascal Siakam for a 4-year deal really helps you do that. I mean, like I said, his playoff run was incredible. I mean, one of the best playoff runs of anybody in the postseason. The Pacers really lucked out getting him in that trade. How he fit in so seamlessly to the Pacers is so amazing, and you got to be so happy if you're a Pacers fan. It's like, ooh, man, that was the big decision that was, going to cloud this offseason, and it's just out of the way immediately. Now you can just focus on other things, right? We talked about it in my Indiana Pacers offseason preview video. This is a team that is really banking on guys like Halliburton, Nembhard, Naismith, and, these young guys to develop, right? And the big question for the offseason was going to be, can you retain Pascal Siakam, right? That was the big, thing that took you over the top in the postseason, right? And led you all the way to the conference finals. He was the difference maker for that team, right? No Pascal, no ECF. Now you get that out of the way, man. That was the whole thing of this offseason. So now you can just focus on other things, improving on the margins, right? Maybe you move up into the draft. They don't have a first round pick this year. They have a couple seconds, right? Now you can focus on, here's my core, right? They're all locked in for next season. How do I make the team better around them? And without the Pascal Siakam contract extension looming, that is so easy to focus on now. And now you just get that right out of the way. I think it is a huge success for Indiana. What a, great way to start the offseason for them. Couldn't have started any better, right? So Pistons and Pacers, really showing that they are committed to winning in, their own very different ways. But I think these are two really good moves. Pistons fans, don't let people tell you it's a bad move. I think it's a great move. Firing Monty Williams before you let him go a couple more years just to, save face in that front office and just be like, the front office being, oh, well, we paid him in all these years, right? And so if we fire him, we look bad, right? I think, that is a big, bold statement that they're making. Hey, we'll eat this contract. We want to win, and we got to get the right guy in here to do that. Monty Williams is not the right guy for that job, we believe. So I don't care what his contract is. We made a mistake, and we're committed to fixing it with whatever it takes. $65 million doesn't matter. We're getting the right guy in here, and it's not Monty Williams. I think that's a big, bold statement. And then, like I said, the Indiana Pacers coming out, right out of the gate in this offseason, being like, boom, here's all our cards on the table. Here's our core. We're locked in. We're ready to go, and we're gonna focus on the margins and getting these young guys better for next season. Now we can focus on what we really need to focus on, which is improving this team in the other ways, right? So retaining players is always a tricky balance between, cap situation and flexibility. Do you want to retain these guys? Do you want to let them go and bring some new guys in? Or if you can't, if you're struggling to retain him, maybe he's thinking about going somewhere else. Now you got to, really play your cards right in free agency in the offseason, because you just can't focus on getting the team better as it is, right? So if you really believe in this team, which you should in Indiana, having all this core, locked down contract wise makes it so much easier and takes a lot off your plate to be able to, improve the team in other ways. So that is a huge buy-in from Pascal and huge payout from Indiana. And I think it's just an easy, common W for the Pacers the last few years. Round of applause for both of these teams, I believe, making the right calls. The Pistons one's going to be heavily disputed, whether that's a good call, bad call. Let me know down in the comment section if you are a fan of either of these teams. What do you think of these moves? I think they're both W's, like I said, and hopefully you guys can give me your feedback down in the comments, because you guys are always so, intelligent about this stuff. A lot of you guys give great feedback, a lot more than me on some of these topics. And I'm not an expert. I'm just a passionate NBA fan. So please let me know your insider input on this situation, especially if you're a fan of one of these teams. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video if you guys haven't already. Really helps out the channel. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, because we upload NBA content just like this every single day on this channel. I wouldn't want you guys to miss it, man. The off season's coming up. We got big things planned for the channel, including, updates just like this. Every time something big like this happens, I'm gonna be dropping a video as soon as I can, right? So everyday uploads, all things NBA, right? Off season coming up. We got trades, draft, free agency, big things happening. Summer Olympics, right? We're gonna be covering that as well. So make sure you guys stick around. I want to share this stuff with you guys, right? So make sure you guys subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. This is your boy D Haven, as always. Peace.